And right now, I'm really thinking, would the cooperation be so in depth and so deep if Prague would not have been such a beautiful city? And that is really a part of the good work. I remember it from Gregor to hire the implementers in the future. I think this is very challenging. To continue the work on the normative issue, and I surely want to confirm this need of not simply accepting to avoid stigmatization. Because we don't have to be so afraid of stigmatization not to put the finger on the wound. And this quote of the French, of the Geneva lady, Révolution citoyenne pour la prévention. I really believe in this, in the need of this bottom-up movement and this part of advocacy, Matei. And I like very much your picture of to organize better parties than the party you showed, because I think it was not really empirical, but just by intuition that 35 years ago, I already promoted in Belgium, which is also a party country, that one enormous big component of prevention is to organize better parties, because the parties at that time, I don't know if you were very young then, but in any case, you were younger. At that time, the parties didn't even look like your picture. The parties looked like white lights upstairs, a lot of beers here, the big plastic glasses, no good music, and just by intuition I said, hey, if you organize such a party, of course you have a lot of drunk people and drug problems. You have to organize nice parties with, like you very finely said, a lot more flirt, a lot more space for flirting, why not? And having that said, prevention has to be more sexy. And actually, if I explain what I do to people who are adoring the fact that we are doing so good work to save addicts from the dead, I said, but it is not that kind of work that I'm doing. My work is very funny. I'm working with people and looking for solutions, and we are doing, actually I think, isn't it, Anami, my colleague sitting on the first row, we are doing a very sexy job, actually, and a very fine job, and also, because you say this is such a good project, I am sure I know a lot of you, I don't know, most of you are new for me, but still I'm sure that we are all doing our job in a good way. It's not something very special to be a good prevention worker or prevention expert. Later on this afternoon, we will work in groups. After this, at the end of this presentation, we will give you an overview of which groups you can choose and what it is about, so that you can take. Ilse, is that still the case? They have to take somewhere which workshop they will choose?
Yeah.
Okay. And before that, before you do so, I will first give an insight together with Gregor what is in the workshop.
Yeah, exactly. As I mentioned, there was probably maybe those who arrived after 9:40. They were asked to sign up for the workshops. Near the registrations. If you were not signed up yet or were not asked, you will have opportunity to do so during the lunch break. There are 3 workshop sheets, but as I mentioned, there is a limited number of the participants per the workshop. We would like to divide you evenly among 3 workshops.
Yeah.
But this will be during the lunch break, and I think is it right, Teresa, for the workshop signature, it can still be done in the registration?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, there will be approximately 12 to 15 persons, something like that, per workshop, or 15 to 18 per workshop. So in the workshops that will take, I'm giving you a little overview of the 2 days. In the workshops, which will take 2 hours, there will be a lot of work in the workshops, there will be not only the theme of the work only, if it is, for example, school-based and school and something else, based, school and community-based, for example. It will not only talk only about school and community-based, also evaluation, monitoring, advocacy, some cross-cutting themes will also be dealt with in those workshops. But they will not be lecturing like here. There will be more interactive opportunities, and maybe here and there even some games or plays. In any case, more room for discussion. Don't worry. And that is for you to understand what is in the curriculum, what is the content of the curriculum. We are giving, Gregor gave, and I will give, and Giovanna come afterwards with the broader side on the introduction and the why and what are the great lines of the curriculum. This afternoon we will go deeper into what is the content of the chapters, for what is in this. For today, to understand what is the content of the curriculum. Tomorrow we will go to what is the training of the curriculum, because only distribution of the book, of the handbook, is not enough. There's also training necessary. How is this training conceived, and how does it look like? The bigger part of tomorrow, that is the start of tomorrow, but the bigger part of tomorrow will be discussion debates, again in smaller groups and plenary, discussion and debates on dissemination. Because dissemination is the thing that we are very limited in. We are only 9 countries, and you represent a very, very, very big network. You are a very big network, and this dissemination is an important debate between the people who worked on the EUPC, the European Prevention Curriculum, and you, the Rijtok network, plus some other experts, or some other decision makers, opinion makers on an international level. So dissemination will be discussed more tomorrow. That about the overview, what is going to happen for you. Now, today I'm going to talk at this moment about a little bit about the history, about what are significant themes and what are the chapters in the EUPC that we will go deeper into later today, and what are the adaptation core issues, and why did we change the American-based version originally to this shorter version. After my intervention, Giovanna Campello from UNODC will enter the room. She should be here at 11:30. 11:40. Okay. Yeah. She takes a breath, and then she will go into prevention science and the importance of the international quality standards for the prevention workforce. History. First of all, who did we want to target? Gregor is a very important person in this who, and with Gregor also the EMCDDA. The EMCDDA was a very important player at the birth of the EUPC project. Matej Kozir from Slovenia was also someone who was at another level in Slovenia, but at another level, but also a very important player at the start of this project. And David Foxcroft from not Liverpool, but Oxford Brookes University in the UK. Those were 3 protagonists who were very important to start the idea of the program, where we took with Gent, with the Gent University, where we took the task to coordinate this. What did we want? The objective is simple: to train prevention professionals with a standardized curriculum. When I was young, I did not like the word standardized, because standardized was everybody does the same, and I like bottom up. But now, already a long time, I know that standardized is better. We really need to work. If we work on this on this level, we really need to respect and to work in a standardized way, manualized, standardized. The DOP word, so the red block that you see, is representing months and months of exhaustive and also really complicated discussions in the EUPC group. The moment that we were talking about the training, yes, if we have to prepare the training, who do we have to invite? And it is not prevention practitioners, the implementers. It is not the teacher who delivers the program, or not the expert who delivers the program. It's not he or she that we want. That was very clear. But yeah, but then who? The policymakers. In some countries, policymakers meant politicians. I said, yeah, maybe in Poland, this is the Polish delegates. They were very strict on not strict, but very much focusing on that. If we need the real decision makers of policy, we need politicians. Where in several other countries, we said it is not really the politician, it is the administrators. We could call them experts, but the administrators who are more directed to prevention, who know already a little bit more about prevention, and it is they who we have to influence, who are the decision makers, or the decision makers or the policy makers. So we broadened. We made the term policy makers broader, and we entered decision makers and opinioners or opinion makers, opinion leaders or opinion makers. We entered those two concepts in the DOP target description, target group description. Of course, if we want regions, countries, localities to use evidence-based projects, they have to be accessible, they have to be available, they are available. We need people who deliver them, who implement them, we need the teachers, we need the prevention workers to deliver them. But more influence on effective implementation, on effectiveness, of more influence is the level of the training of the involved staff. That means, if this is so, then we need first quality standards. And if we have quality standards, then we need to train the professionals with, again, a standardized prevention curriculum. The project was executed. We are almost finished. 31 December we will be finished with these 11 organizations, academic organizations, NGOs, and governmental organizations, 11 institutes in 9 different countries. It was a project sponsored. Can I have my It's a sexy job, but we drink water during work. So the first part, the first part of the project was to make a mapping of what is there and necessary as a source for the first adaptation of the the book, of the written material. Then to pilot, to test out training in 3 versions. And these activities, we needed absolutely a very important support, content, expert support from the United Nations, UNODC, the Monitoring Center, the EUSPR, the European Society for Prevention Research, then the American organization that was at the source of the original UPC is the organization, let us say, from Zili Sloboda. Zili Sloboda has been, for the ones who do not know her, has been the director of
NIDA division.
Pardon?
NIDA division.
NIDA division in the United States for many decades, I think, to 20 years ago, but also for 20 years. No?
They didn't like it.
She didn't like it. Was not sexy. Not sexy in any case. But in any case, she was the lead to write this very, to edit, to compose and edit this very scientifically robust and consistent curriculum of not only 9 weeks in length, but also if you print out the written curriculum, it is 90 centimeter, I think, approximately, of a pile of paper. It's a lot of books. Too much to be implemented. We are really very sorry to miss Zili at this conference, because she has been participating in the adaptation process as a guardian angel, of course, of the fidelity to the core items and to the core intentions, objectives, goals, aims, concepts in the original project, in the original curriculum. And ISUP is a UK-based international organization, very much involved in the dissemination of the international UPC all over the world. We started with the adaptation of the handbook, and we used the EUPC, the European Drug Prevention Quality Standards methodology to adapt a curriculum for this. And that meant that we revised because this big module had, the American curriculum had 9 modules. Module 1 is a sort of introduction to prevention science and evidence-based, what is prevention science. And then there are the specific models on the prevention settings, each in a different, very exhaustive curriculum. And we first revised the first one, which was for us the most important source, and then repeated the process to take out from the specific big module on school prevention, to take out what is important to put in our compressed, not condensed, but in our compressed, summarized version. Downsize the content to a more grippable and usable curriculum. It will finally be a little bit bigger, but it is something like that. This was the midterm intermediary version to start the pilots with. We categorized the possible adaptations in different categories, types of adaptations, in order to discuss with this big group of partners. And please note the quote of Valentina Kreeft from Croatia. We should not try to teach condensed prevention, condensed knowledge, only a little bit of, only a part of knowledge. We have to teach total, complete knowledge, and we still have to trigger the DOPS to, if you want to know more, because we cannot tell everything in a shorter version. If you want to know more, you will listen to Michael Miowski tomorrow, where he introduces the EUDDR, which is the, let me very shortly, and maybe unrespectfully say, the dissemination in Europe of the complete, original version, still in European adaptation, but in an exhaustive volume. in academy, so far, mostly in Prague. Building a foundation to know more, but they do need the foundation, even if they already know about prevention. In the training development, so far I was mostly talking about the curriculum, the handbook, but to develop the trainings, we even needed to conceive more European own source material, because when it comes down to working with people, you have to be more culturally adapted. It's quite a logical build-up of activities. And we chose from the start to test the training in 3 versions, 3 modules: the DOP, the DOP version, the face-to-face training of 5 days for a group of 22, 30, 18 persons. The academic version of 30 hours divided in 8 lessons, or for example in Belgium it was 12 lessons with lectures, exercises. An academic version for a group of bachelors or masters. And an online version with online e-learning lectures and support and activities material, reflection material. The curriculum and the training needs to be disseminated, and because the testing was in 11 organizations in 9 countries, there have been important steps set already in those countries, in those cities actually, to involve the important stakeholders, to recruit the participants. In some countries, very big groups, which is already an important starting situation, of course, for further dissemination, the application within the testing phase. During the course of activities, we did not have to, but we could change our plans. Originally, we knew very well, 31 December 2018, the program will be finished, and we have to foresee, we have to preview that we have some kind of setting where we will coordinate the further training and the further dissemination. This would have been the EUSPR, the Society for Prevention Research, which has won a commission, and the commission was ready to focus in the next few years on trying coordinating the dissemination of the EUPC. In the start of 2018, however, not only Gregor, but an important group within EMCDDA on the highest levels, they saw that EUPC curriculum as well as the EUPC training, that they would actually fit very well in the planning of, in the plans of EMCDDA concerning standard quality assured trainings. Which meant that the dissemination would be taken over by EMCDDA of course, with your network. And this is a very important change of dissemination. It's also very exceptional that such a European project will have such an important valorization, actually, of the testing, of the research. That about the history of the UPC-Adapt project. You want to say anything more about the last slide?
Talk about it tomorrow.
Okay, that comes back tomorrow. Dissemination is the theme for tomorrow, that's right. What are the critical themes in the EUPC? It is aimed to provide the target group with the introduction to prevention science on a standardized way, so that people in all our 27 different countries, at least, that they know what do we actually mean with prevention science. Because a lot of people that we will have in our workshops, they know already about prevention, they know, yeah, I know what means evidence-based, but do we talk the same language? This is really a great contribution of the curriculum. How to select, where to find the information for good selection, and how to implement. The curriculum is very practical. If we could choose from, if you could select from and extract from this 90-centimeter curriculum, we did not take the very exhaustive, very broad theoretical background, but we chose very much of practical tools, how-to exercises, examples. And then we took over also the division between a big part on general concepts, and then just as big a part on application of these concepts in family-based, school-based, workplace, and so forth settings, environmental settings. The definition, this will not be new for you because you have had so many meetings where the meeting starts or gets stuck or closes, but we have made all these decisions, but actually, what do we mean with drug use? We don't mean drug use, we mean drug abuse. No drug abuse, drug problems. No, so you know this, you certainly know this discussion, and this the definition of this is an important theme, not only just one paragraph, but a theme. It is, of course, one paragraph where it is described, but it comes back at several times. It's an important cross-cutting theme. We avoid the use of the word substance abuse. That we talk about substance use, because substance abuse as such can be an ambiguous concept. A significant theme is the science of prevention, and you will notice further today and tomorrow. You will notice that the underlying theories that they are, I can say that they are really explained in an appropriate and in a well-balanced and in quite a clear way. The theory of reasoned action, Fishbein action. What is it actually? It is so important in many of the interventions that will be chosen, but what is actually the difference between that kind of thinking and the nudging thinking and the nudging activities and actions and interventions that also have to be chosen, but which is a totally other way of thinking. this approach, such a practice-oriented approach of the science of prevention is brought into reality, is established in this project. Am I right? Raquel Raquel, just beside Annemie. She is the leader of the ADAPT training work package, and she has been in a very charming but determined way. She has been assembling all the findings and the experiences and suggestions for improvement from the DOP trainings in nine different countries, in six different countries, and this is really an enormous contribution to this aspect, practice-oriented teaching of the science of prevention. We think it's also, I hope I'm not anticipating on what Giovanna will explain to you, but we think it is also really necessary that not only the prevention desk worker, the prevention expert, but also the decision makers and the people involved in, the people who need to have an important, who are important to have an opinion about prevention, like the director of a very important, of a rather big NGO in one of the cities one of the main cities in your organization, or someone in maybe not the Ministry of Education, but in the education inspection or so, or the education coordination, who plays an important role in making decisions on prevention programs in schools. Those people, they must know about the international standards, and not only there are standards that need to be followed, but what is the spirit of the UNODC standards? What is the idea of the EDPQS standards, and what is best to follow? Why is it important to follow these standards? That is the way that we explain the international standards in this theoretical part of the curriculum. Etiology, and Harry Soonal, who was, because EMCDDA jumped in, and the final editing has been done the last half year, has been realized by Professor Soonal from the Liverpool University, really a big guy with a very broad expertise in our field, and he likes more to talk about influencing factors with this interaction approach. It's a result of interaction between environmental factors and individual characteristics. He likes to describe it more like that than predictors. Of course, he does not forbid the word predictors, but it is a sophisticated approach. We have to be aware that we need to work based on risk more than on exposure. It is more difficult, but it's more complicated and more difficult, but it is more effective. Influencing factors and etiology. Finally, the multidisciplinarity is also an important part of the component in the EUPC. The fact that the prevention expert, the prevention worker, the prevention expert needs really a lot of expertise in his bucket. The chapters are divided in the first 4 as general concept chapters, and in the second part they are more practical in a prevention approach in different settings. But mind, it is not just theory in the first and practice in the second. Of course, it's a lot of mingling. I'm sorry, Matej Kozir from Slovenia is the advocate of advocacy, and I'm sorry, Gregor, but I need your, just need your attention, but because you are making the last editing, and I'm not sure if advocacy, if we now decided that advocacy is chapter number 10,
I think so.
or, okay, so the brackets, the twin brackets can go away, so advocacy is indeed chapter number 10. It's a fine group, a nice group, a sexy group, isn't it? It's good. Nice group, sexy group of professional people doing a good job. We are simply doing our job and having fun. The adaptation, that was really desk work. We needed to, we just talked about it on the meeting this morning. Luckily that we hired for this someone who made the adaptation, who liked desk work and who was not always tempted to go to the field, because to make this to a short version is really a lot of computer and no field work. We started with a mapping exercise, and the mapping exercise was building further on the SPAN project. SPAN project made an overview, a mapping of the academic courses in Europe. We took the SPAN database and we completed it with also non-academic courses. In total, we received information from 244 courses, and on the left you see what were the results of this data assemblance, and on the right which influence it had on the EUPC. There is not so much focusing on substance use, and that was a reason more to do this with the EUPC. Also, like many of the curricula or manuals we write, also adaptable or applicable to other domains, other risk behaviors. The language issue is, of course, a second point. We will have an English version, but it should be edited and translated in many other countries. What do we mean with perspectives? The most of the existing courses, they are focusing only on 4 or less of the perspectives that are mentioned here at the right. 50% of all the current courses, they focus on research and not on research as such, and not on these more specific perspectives. So that implied that we chose to focus on a range of different perspectives and this broadening from research to practice for sure, policy and quality standards. 70% of the existing courses in this mapping were academic courses. That is the reason why we have put so much emphasis on the DOP version, the DOP training. We worked with a small working group, a core group with the international partners, plus CUNY, which is Michael Miowski, with his accreditation, not only accreditation expertise, but also with his addiction expertise. And all the project partners were operating as a reference group. The first goal of the revision of the general model of the first part was to downsize the content. We did the same process for the different setting, for part 2, for the different setting. And we reviewed all this with the partner group, with the reference group. We reached consensus on this, and as said, finally, EMCDDA took over the final editing, which was really also quite substantial. If we categorize the adaptation in surface and deep adaptation, the surface adaptation, there's not very much discussion about this, but deeper adaptation can cover context adaptation. Like, for example, the concept of the community. What do we mean with community or society base? We need a lot more skills to train people on advocation. Gregor already illustrated the nightlife prevention setting is different, but also the communication with media is different than it was approached in the American-based version. Context adaptations, cultural adaptations cover, for example, substance or drug use, substance abuse or substance use. The focus more on risk, but also on risky behavior instead of negative behavior. It's a pity that Silly is not here, because when I covered this slide, or in her presence, it's a bit arrogant maybe, but she did react with. But a lot of those things have, in the meantime, been changed in the American version also. So it's not really different at this time. But in any case, these were adaptations that we made. For example, the ethical part. You can approach the importance of ethics in prevention on the way you should behave as a prevention explorer, as a prevention worker, where we assessed that it is more necessary to approach the fact that a lot of our people we work with, that they are confronted with ethical dilemmas. They have to make ethical dilemmas, choices they have to make, dilemmas where they have to make choices in. These adaptations are all documented in, I think this will be a document of 12 pages in total. They're all listed, and in the study report of the program, and the study report of the project, which will be released in February or March, there will be the full study description that you can consult. But this is the way that we discussed about it. So we identified what to change, and we discussed the rationale, and we also noted down and documented the rationale of the adaptations. And hopefully we will succeed in publishing articles on this adaptation process Giovanna is still not here?
He was waiting for the cab. There's no cab at the train station. When you finish, you can make it just
Yeah, great. Yeah. But we also, sorry, we also need we need to propose within the European Union, talking about adaptations, within the European Union, we made 9 language versions. And of course, in the translation, we also followed a protocol of adaptation, translation and adaptation protocol, because translation also goes together with small adaptation. So the way we have to deal with that is described also in a very short protocol. So this is my presentation on the history and the core items and the adaptation process of the EUPC. Thank you very much.